You ever have one of those days where, in just a single moment, everything you thought you knew about respect, about justice, just falls apart in public? That was me, Officer Jalen Mills, standing there in full uniform, badge polished, just doing my job in the heart of the city. But to two white officers cruising by, I was nothing more than a suspicious black guy. That's how quick it can flip, you know? One minute, I'm the one sworn to protect, and the next, I'm being cuffed in front of a crowd, cell phones out, everyone watching, a storm of whispers swirling through the heat. Yeah, that happened, buckle up. Let me back up a sec. That day, the sun felt like it was burning straight through my shirt as I walked past Barrio Market. It's the kind of place where people survive more than they live, if you catch my drift. As a black cop, I wear this badge with double the weight. Not just for duty, but for the daily fight to prove I belong everywhere, every time. But a uniform doesn't shield you from the shadows cast by prejudice. Not here, not today. I saw their squad car, first a pair of them. Eyes sharp, posture set to trouble. You know that look. And before I could even nod, one was out, barking, "Hey, you." His partner silent, but backing him all the way closed in like this was his turf, and I was an intruder. They didn't see my badge, didn't care to. ID. The word hit like a slap, and when I replied, "Officer Mills, badge number 4392, precinct 27, all I got was a scoff. My ID meant nothing. My years on the force meant less. What they saw was just another black man in the wrong place. Next thing, cold metal bit into my wrists. They cuffed me right there. Phones flew, everybody in the neighborhood, suddenly a witness. A sea of faces full of disbelief, anger, and a tired kind of knowing. Maybe this time, somebody thought, maybe this time something would actually change. And as they shoved me toward their patrol car, I caught my own reflection in a storefront, cuffed, jaw set, not flinching, not begging, just holding on. That's when things got electric. The crowd started pushing in, murmurs rising into shouts. One old man in a Vietnam vet hat yelled, "Ain't this your beat, Jalen?" Another woman, arms crossed tight, glared daggers at the officers. It was like everyone in the street decided, right then, that enough was enough. But those two, they dug in harder, voices growing sharp, demanding to know what I was really doing here, what my suspicious activity was. All the while, my badge caught the sunlight and glinted, a silent protest against their blindness. "You sure you're in the right place?" The taller one sneered, like he was daring me to break. My patience was fraying me anger, too, but I kept my voice steady. "This is my post. I patrol here every day. You know that." But they only saw what they wanted. And the cuffs, they weren't just on my wrists, they were on my dignity. That's when my partner, Maria Santiago, showed up. Right on cue, like some force of nature. She's tough Puerto Rican, straight shooter, no patience for BS. "What's going on here?" she demanded, voice sharp, eyes blazing. The officers bristled, called for backup like they were the ones under threat now. But Maria didn't back down. She walked right up, looked them dead in the eye, then over at me. "You good, Jalen?" Just a simple question, but it meant the world. I nodded, silent, still cuffed, but not alone anymore. And that was the crack in their armor. Because now the crowd was getting louder, more people gathering, phones recording, the whole scene streaming live. Even the officers could feel the tide turning, their control slipping. Suddenly, the whole city was watching, not just the block. One of them finally muttered, "Let's step back and reassess," but his voice sounded small, brittle. Maria held her ground, and with a sharp order from a supervisor on the radio, someone who knew my name, knew my service, the cuffs came off. You ever feel the weight of 1,000 eyes, all at once, just waiting to see which way the world's going to tilt? That what it was like, standing there, rubbing my wrists, the crowd letting out a breath they didn't know they'd been holding. Some people cheered, some just nodded, and others filmed the moment the cuffs came off like proof that the fight had tipped, at least for now. Back at the precinct, it was all tense glances, whispered questions, but Maria and I kept our heads high. My phone buzzed nonstop messages from friends, colleagues, folks I hadn't heard from in years. Most just said, "We saw what happened. We got your back." One call stood out. Daniel Reeves, an old buddy, ex-Marine, now a civil rights lawyer with more clout than half the city council combined. I saw the footage, Jalen. Don't let them wear you down. You stood your ground. He promised to get the ball rolling on a review, not just for me, but for every officer who'd ever been judged by the color of their skin, not the content of their service. But the day didn't end with my release. That night, the story exploded: online justice for Jalen, in police bias. Local news picked it up, then national outlets. Suddenly, our fight wasn't just a block, a precinct, or a city. It was a country asking if the badge really meant justice for all. And, something shifted in the air. Maria leaned over and said, "Maybe this is how it starts. Maybe this is how we change it for good." Days later, I stood with Maria and Daniel on a stage at the city park. Gina Harmona, fierce community leader who'd watched it all unfold, rallied a crowd of hundreds. "We're not here to burn it all down," she shouted. "We're here to build something better." People from every part of the city, black, white, brown, old, young, showed up. They held signs. They shared their stories. They promised not to let this moment fade. I spoke, too nervous but strong. I told them what it felt like to wear the badge and still be treated like a threat. I told them about Maria, about Daniel, about everyone who's tired of fear running the streets. We marched that afternoon, not just for me, but for every story that never made the news. The police union tried to push back old arguments, old fear, but even some officers, young ones, started to ask out loud if things had to change. Some older cops pulled me aside and said, "I've seen a lot, Jalen. Never thought I'd see this." Their voices were rough, regretful, but not closed off. That night, after the rally, Maria and I sat on the steps of the precinct. We watched the city settle, sirens distant, air thick with hope and doubt. "You think it'll stick?" she asked. "Change, I mean." I shrugged, feeling the bruises on my wrists and the fire in my chest. "Maybe it's not about if it sticks," I said. "Maybe it's about not letting go, no matter how many times they try to slip the cuffs back on." Maria grinned, tired but fierce. "One day at a time, partner." "So, tell me, what would you have done if you saw what happened that day? Does justice really come down to who's holding the cuffs, or who's brave enough to break them? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what it really means to stand up, not just for yourself, but for everybody waiting for a different ending. Your story matters. So does mine. Let's make sure the world keeps listening.